characters, and I would like for us to collectively come up with a backstory for each of these people. So feel free to leave your anti-judgmental hat at the door. The point of the exercise is we are judging them, and I'm actually going somewhere with it. So this does not represent what you actually think of someone with the soul. It's just a blank response that's intended to be totally opinionated, not based on fact, but just initial perception. You know, okay. All right. First picture. So go ahead and judge this guy. What do you think? Transgender. About it, all right? That's good.
She's beautiful.
That dude lives in New York. He lives in New York.
Wealthy.
Yes.
Works on
Wall Street. He only cares about money. He wants
trust and coffee choice.
Choose on his wife.
He wants me to invest.
He's not married, never.
Bachelor.
He wants me to invest in his.
Adam's extra good at this, by the way. He's practiced, I think.
Doesn't care what the other person has.
He's got an incredibly small cup of coffee.
He doesn't order his coffee, someone brings it to him.
Larson, clearly an alcoholic.
I
Definitely.
agree.
He needs a good eyebrow waxing.
Colors is
It looks like Count Olaf.
This is great, guys. You guys are so good at this.
He's got
This is
5
the only suit he owns. He says multiples of it.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Very good. He's looking through the soul of that person. He
Yeah.
either is playing an attack or he is thinking about something else. I'm an optimist, so I assume it's the latter, of course. But yeah, all that same stuff. What about this guy? What do you think is going on in this guy's life? Wait. What about that guy?
Oh man, super sad about Kurt Cobain dying.
He also has
Still.
Yes, sensational
He has
As day goes by, they don't think it's
Straightening color his hair, which is good.
But he-
He's not great at playing an instrument, but he's got his hair blown.
He has a kid.
He's not good at it.
He's in a Kid Rock cover band, and
Yeah.
they have local success.
His house
Lives
is
with his
super
parents.
gross. He definitely has a gross
He
house.
lives with his parents.
Lies about his age.
He
It's a
creates
kid
some drama.
Yeah, he's a drama guy. That's
He's
right.
drove the car he's currently driving since high school.
That's right.
Has weed in his left pocket.
Very good. All right. What about this gentleman?
Oh.
What do you think of this guy? What's his story?
Super cool. Incredibly successful. Is that Jay?
He's like a hot nurse that just got someone like killed on
He
his
just
hand
murdered
or something.
someone.
Look at the shoes.
Yeah, the shoes are
Awesome.
He's a deep thinker.
I
That's the
love
big
it.
symbol.
I love it.
He didn't deal well with
Did
the
he buy the
success in high
shirt?
school
He made the
musical.
shirt.
What is happening?
Is that Zach?
He made the
It is
shoes.
Zac Efron.
Exactly.
Is it really?
It's one of
Alright,
the things
should
from high school.
But
Very
blow your
secure in
mind.
his masculinity.
Same guy.
Wow!
It's like, no, you cannot take my daughter on a date. Yes, I will come with you. We didn't need the daughter. Same guy. Same guy. Right or wrong, the way people present themselves send us signals about who that person is, what they're like, what is their story, where have they been, what do they care about. The truth is, people outside of this room who don't actually know us very well make judgments about all of us, our entire team. We want those judgments to be based on who we really are and not off false assumptions like we just exercised. It's not just in terms of the way we dress, but how we communicate, how we operate, how we use email, how we use social media. So here's an example of, just a way we present ourselves. So this is a young man who's dating a young lady named Lizzie. What's up, Lizzie's dad? Lizzie has got lit about getting married, don't clap back or anything, but your boy is thirsty AF. He's very mad at the time. He wants to talk to his future father-in-law about
What is happening?
The point is, how we present ourselves matters. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So what we're talking about in this
What's thirsty mean?
It's AF me.
I had like 30 different culture, young people slang terms that I just was like, just
You compose
copy and
that.
paste. I don't think I can. I don't think I'm allowed to.
Subject.
Throw in, it's not just dress, social media,
He's on
emails.
Urban Dictionary for like 2 hours.
Yeah. It took me longer than the point of today is that we are presenting the real us, and that way others outside of this room aren't making false assumptions on all of us because we just didn't realize how we were presenting ourselves. We want to make sure that it communicates that we're competent, intelligent, thoughtful, because we are those people. The reality is people can only decide based on the information that they had. So things like email etiquette or dress or our language or even haircuts, that's all they have. And so in a snap judgment that takes a matter of seconds, we want those things to send the right signals because the reality is the people in this room are in fact pretty awesome. So we just want to make sure our signals are representing that. So that's what we're going to do today. A lot of this stuff is going to be really logistical. You've heard it before, which is actually the point of this time is to fight against disunity that we're trying to combat it using this 30 minutes to just help us sharpen us all and be in alignment of things like this. So cool, that's what we're going to talk about today. First item of topic is dress. How sad would it be if someone didn't trust one of us because they simply saw us wearing basketball shorts while we were working? Be terrible. We are all very trustworthy people, so we want to dress in a way that would communicate what is in fact already true of all of us. So we actually have dress codes, and we've had it in place for quite a while. So if you weren't aware of this, that's great. I wanted to cover this annually, but if you are already aware of it, that's great as well. So Sundays is a specific time that we want to intentionally wear nicer clothes. For gentlemen, always wear pants, closed-toe shoes, and a collared shirt or something nice. For ladies, we've been a little bit vaguer about it, but just dress nicely and modestly. In the past, we've said, I think we've said like no sleeveless tops or spaghetti straps. I don't know if that's an official thing, but I know that's the rule for on stage. Same as well as in the office. We've got some office parameters to not dress sloppy. I used to say dress like you are going to the mall to hang out at the food court with your friends. That is becoming less and less relevant as time goes on.
You told me that.
Before you hit a blockbuster.
Where I grew up. So I don't know what the new equivalent is. It might be like Dave and Buster's or something like that. I wouldn't know. I should stay in my house all day. So,
Top golf, sleep, hanging out.
I'll go to Top Golf. But more specifically, don't come to the office in workout clothes. Even if you're not meeting with someone from the outside that day, the reality is Ryan might be, or I might be. And so when they walk into the office and they see you wearing workout clothes or basketball shorts, that's a bad look, and that communicates something. If you're actually meeting with someone, I think it should be Sunday dress. Actually wear pants, a collared shirt, closed-toe shoes. It's just a courtesy to be able to respect the person that you're meeting with. Again, this isn't to stifle your creativity or your style. It is more so to maximize our effectiveness as a team for what we're trying to accomplish here as we're working here. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Next, email. Similarly with email, we covered this 2 weeks ago, but responding within 24 hours, we covered that already. Another professionalism freebie
Can you
that...
just clarify that, Chris? When you say respond within 24 hours, you mean internal emails as well as external emails?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it slows down. We covered it 2 weeks ago. You were gone, but the reason why is it slows down our speed. So there was an example where one of us.
No, I don't need to be convinced. I don't think we have people in the room who are convinced. So I want to make sure we know that is the expectation for everyone, and there are not exceptions to that.
Well, I should have convinced you 2 weeks ago, but
No, that's great. That's great.
No.
Just making sure that.
Check the video. That may or may not be online.
Can you say again what the expectation is? I think I missed what you said.
Respond to all emails within 24 business
So
hours.
you send me an email. Your expectation is I'm responding to you in 24 hours. And if member Bob sends me an email, his expectation is that I'm responding to him within 24 hours.
Are we including?
24 business hours, so
Business
not over the weekend. And an appropriate response, like I said previously, is, hey, I'm swamped at the moment. I can get to this in 2 weeks from now. I'll revisit this and touch base with you then. Just responding to them and letting them know that you got the email, you read it, and it is going to be handled, is effectively handling or responding within 24 hours.
As long as 2 weeks,
You
go
actually put
back
on our
and do it.
calendar. Yeah, which we covered that as well, pulled up the calendar and our to-do list. So everybody should be well versed in how to do that. So anyway, moving on, a professional freebie for us to all be unified and organized is just us having the same email signature. So this is actually going to come across as new information, but ages ago Kent sent out this email and said, we want all of our email signatures to be 3 lines, obviously your name, title, Midtown Fellowship, and the website. If it's church specific, you can, if you're church specific, just use that church specific terminology. But the reality is this might be new, and we may change it in the future, but I'd love for all of us to start doing this, because it does have a good look, so I'd love for you to make a note to actually make that in the future. For unification purposes.
We need
Well,
If we had additional information to that, okay, you want just that.
Man, Landon, your picture says, trust me.
That's why I like that photo.
It is, man, it's a great picture.
Or you want to leave your, drop off your student with this
Don't
person.
know me, you can trust me with your kids.
For now, we'll roll with this. We can change it in the future. We honestly haven't even had a conversation about what we would ideally want to do this. This was just past Kent, who's not even here anymore, so
Yeah.
this was what he
Who
thought.
cares about that guy?
Midtown Fellowship or Midtown Downtown?
Either one.
Okay. Midtown Central, like Vision Team, if you were like hypothetically, if I was.
It's just it communicates that we're organized and unified, and it's just a freebie. So if we all are unified on it, it's a good look. Lastly, a very reasonable expectation with emails is to have someone proofread at least once before sending out emails to non-staff folks. So internally, if we have typos or missing words, it's not a big deal, but if you're emailing a member who maybe doesn't know very much about you, a grammar mistake or a typo actually communicates something to them that is challenging your competency. We're all very competent people in this room. I don't want that to be the determining factor which influences how someone thinks about us. So anyway, all of this is just an easy way to communicate to others that, what's already true about us, that we're unified, organized, competent, and trustworthy people. That's the goal of today in these instructions. Make sense so far?
Yep.
Any questions? Cool. Next, social media. This is another arena where we are on display. First of all, in the past, many folks already have this, but we've required a little disclaimer on blogs that's just, I currently serve here at our church. Although I'm on staff, the opinions expressed on the site are my own and do not reflect the views of Midtown Fellowship or its staff. It's good that we have that, but the reality is there isn't going to be much difference between us and our church. And that's just for literal reasons. The people in this room are pastors and deacons of our church, which is a group of people. And so regardless, the reality is you're an ambassador of our church, whether you're thinking about it like you are or not. And what you put on display on social media does influence people in regards to our church. We give a ton of freedom regarding social media, but the reality is, as an employee here, it does mean that there are people who could read your post and never actually give our church a chance because of what you may or may not have posted. That they would never have come on a Sunday to be welcomed by our people, to hear the life-changing news of Jesus. And that, just because of what we care about ultimately, that we just can't let that be the case. And so I wanted to give you some warning about how to make decisions of what to post in light of this fact, and specifically something that may be kind of controversial is regarding to posting anything politically inflammatory. Because there are certain posts that if someone knew you were a staff member of our church and they saw a negatively charged post that would arouse angry feelings, they would simply write off our church. And we just can't let that be the case. So some of you may want to push back on this because I know you don't want to be silent on certain issues and you feel the need to say something, but I just want to be clear that refraining from posting politically inflammatory comments is actually not the same thing as being silent. amazing and beautiful to provide support for causes that help in social injustice. This is a great thing. You do not need to be silent. But more so what I'm asking is, rather than attack certain politicians, show people that you have reach to and influence on what you actually want them to do, and show support for the things that you are for. Truthfully, there's a million different scenarios that this explanation does not provide just comprehensive instruction to determine what your future decisions will be. But more so, if your discernment is uncertain, as a general practice, ask supervisors and pastors. That is welcome and encouraged. The reality is there's no expert in this room on this particular topic, but we just need to be mindful together and careful in this arena because the stakes really are high. Just to be clear, it's fine to post something you disagree with a decision or you disagree with a statement. That is different than calling someone a name. Name calling is different than just disagreeing. Maybe a question that is worth asking is, would someone who is in diehard support of the thing that you are against say that you handled yourself respectfully? If they would say yes to that, maybe that's actually a good plumb line to use. Yeah.
This disclaimer, is that something we need to add on our social media and different stuff?
This?
Yeah.
We have asked that before. I say yes to that, but the reality is there's not going to be any difference between if someone sees you as a staff member of our church, it's influencing our church, or you're a representative of our church regardless.
Yeah. I should know if I need to go on my Twitter and add that.
No.
We have said that in the past.
We've only said that for blogs. We've never
Oh
said
yeah,
that
for
social media.
blogs.
Yeah, he said Twitter.
I
He said
said
social
because you had
media.
social. I didn't know.
No, yeah, we've only said that for blogs.
Okay. Just wanted to make
What
sure.
was your question, Laura? And I may not have the answer, but more so, I just want us to be careful with this arena is kind of my point.
Do we need to communicate that, the same thing to our residents, or is that being communicated by you guys?
We'll talk about that, me and Megan. But yes, while there is more distance between them and representing our church, we want to be mindful of this.
And it's good for them to know for their next job. It's the same thing, they'll get
Yeah.
fired if they got garbage on their social media feeds. Or just not
Or
hired
they
in
may
the
not
first
be
place.
hired.
Yeah, just not hired in the first place.
Okay. Just make sure. If this has come up in the past, I just want to be clear that I'm not speaking to any individual in this room. We've never given clear instructions on this topic, and we had this set as a time and date to be able to cover this topic. I realize that the reality is this is likely sacrificing your preference about how you'd like to speak out on social media, and I'm understanding of that, but I hope we all understand the actual reasoning behind this as far as us as employees at Midtown. Cool. Next, and this is a little bit less visible. It's not as public as others, but I wanted to be able to talk about our staff communication because it can still clog up our just communication channels between one another. So I wanted to cover some etiquette on how to use staff email and staff. Oh, just making sure it wasn't HVC people because it's hot in there. Again, this was written a long time ago. It's not directed at any individual. So if you did this recently, please feel no attack. All of us are guilty of these items in the past. This is just an effort to help future interactions. So staff emails and group meetings, what they're not used for. Number one, expressing frustration with a person or our whole staff. So while frustration is going to happen, the acceptable channel is you go up with that. You don't go to the side, which is gossip, or down, which is divisiveness. Bypassing our chain of command and church authority structure. You go to the right people in charge of the different areas or the different events rather than sending out a mass email. So hypothetically, if you have correctly or incorrectly believed that you got bed bugs from staff retreat, hypothetically, just tell the person in charge, no need to send a staff email. The person in charge will relay all the necessary information to the entire group. Hypothetically. using a group chat to talk to one person that you could have just texted or called. So, what time do we got to be at something? That's a one-person question, not a 30-person question. For supervisors of residents, we've instructed them that we don't want them to send out staff emails unless they've just been given express permission for a particular item. So everyone in this room is allowed to send out staff emails, but I just want you to be very discerning on what you send out. Next, we've got some GroupMe no-nos I wanted to cover. Those are specific for GroupMe. The GroupMe is not the place for negative communication of any kind, unless it's an absolute emergency and there's no other option. Otherwise, it's just not the place for it. GroupMe, we don't send out official staff policy. We need to make sure that comes through email, and then we'll post it on our staff resource page. So GroupMe is not where you'll find those items. Got some GroupMe yeses. Encouragement. Talk about what God is doing and the good things that you see others doing. It's a wonderful place for that. Reminders of things that have already been effectively communicated elsewhere. It's a perfect place to use GroupMe for that. Judicious sharing of helpful resources. Great place. Just exercise discernment on what it is. Witty banter. There's going to be no shortage of that, so we'll move on quickly. A discussion of pertinent topics or issues as appropriate. So just, what's going on in the world today? Lastly, so in summary, this is the last item I'm going to talk about. This is just covered under professional communication. I want to talk about communicating with your boss. So I'm going to cover two items. I threw both of them on there at the same time. My mistake. First item, I want to talk about how to communicate when you miss a deadline. I've seen this come up regularly, so I wanted to talk about what I use with people I work with. Missed deadlines and assignments are going to happen, but the reality is you can communicate professionally and effectively with your boss. And so I want you to model quality communication with them. What I always say, if you're going to miss a deadline, good communication is letting me know 1 week out. Sorry, boss, I was looking at my calendar and my to-do list and realized there's no way I can have this in by, it's disappointing for sure, but at least that gives them an opportunity to say, all right, well, let's move things around so that you can accomplish it, or it's, yes, let's move the deadline, no problem. That's good communication. Okay communication is letting me know a day in advance. This is not good. This is just okay. It does happen. We won't praise it, but it is tolerable. Bad communication is the day that something is due, that's when you tell your boss, hey, I'm not going to have this done. I'm not going to have it in. And then I don't know what to even call this communication, is when a deadline comes and goes and you don't say anything, you don't turn anything in. This actually kills trust. And this is, you could call it fireable. I mean, we don't operate like that, but genuinely, it is completely unacceptable. If you said you were going to send out an email a certain day and you don't do it, and you never send anything to your boss about it, and then it does not get done, your boss, it kills their trust. They begin to think, well, they didn't do this, what else do I not know that they aren't doing? And I just wanted to be clear on, even in missed deadlines, I want us to strive for quality communication in this professional environment. The next thing is, I want us to keep our bosses updated. So we've got a built-in system for weekly updates. This is actually, I think, a really powerful tool. I say this all the time, and it's the reason why this is in place is not for busy work. It's to give employees a voice. The reality is we move at an incredible speed, and it's difficult to sync up with your boss at times, especially to even touch base on a personal level, which is why I said the most important question on that list is, here's just an update on how I'm doing personally. We don't have time to really cover that, but we do care about one another more as a person and a human being because we're lovers of Jesus first and foremost. And so, but in the professional environment, there's not always time for that, and we can feel the ramifications of that when we are moving too quickly. And so an update of how you are doing personally is just a very powerful question to have documented on a weekly basis. We are in the employee boss circle, but I still think that is important. I also say this regularly of this is an opportunity for if you're dying, and you go weeks and months and a year without saying anything to your boss, and then you say, hey boss, I'm getting overworked, I'm working 70 hours every single week, what they will turn to you and say, this is not my issue. You should have updated me. And I want to avoid that jarring conversation from happening by saying, that's why I have the question, how many hours did you work last week? It's not really to catch anybody. It's actually to be able to give you a voice to say, hey, these are how documented how many hours I'm working. And that way, if you're doing 60 and 70 hours each week, your boss will be able to be clued in and say, I need to step in, I need to look at what's going on, I need to help, as opposed to you need to have an emergency meeting after a year of being silent, and it's a huge ordeal, as opposed to using this tool to effectively keep your boss updated. Also, just the other questions of here's what I'm planning on doing this week, here's what I'm focused on, here's the things that I'm having an issue with. It provides an opportunity where your boss is completely updated, where your first interaction that week is like 3 or 4 conversations in. And so it doesn't replace face-to-face communication, it only enhances it. So I want us to take weekly updates seriously to be able to keep our bosses updated. Does it make sense?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, questions? Thank you guys for listening. God
Thanks,
bless.
Chris.
Have a great rest of the day.